Hey everyone, and welcome back to Gambling Flow. I'm Russell Kane, your host for this deep dive, and I'm joined by the brilliant Fiona Blake.
It's great to be here, Russell. Always a pleasure.
Today we're going to be shuffling up a topic that's both intriguing and often misunderstood: the connection between autism and card-playing skills.
Ooh.
You know that idea popularized by movies like Rain Man,
Yeah,
that folks on the spectrum are all secret card sharks?
right? The savant who can just count cards like a machine.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a compelling image, but it's important to remember to try and separate the Hollywood drama from reality.
exactly. So is there really a link, or is this just a myth? Get ready to up your poker face because we're about to find out. We're going to delve into the vast world of the autism spectrum, examine specific traits that might give some individuals an edge in card games, and spoiler alert, explain why it's not a guaranteed win every time.
Sounds good. Let's start with autism itself. I think a good way to think about the autism spectrum is to imagine a giant deck of cards. No two cards are exactly the same, right? And that's how it is with autism. It's incredibly diverse, with each individual possessing their own unique set of strengths, challenges, and experiences.
So assuming that everyone on the spectrum's a card-counting genius because of a few famous examples is not only inaccurate, but also diminishes the incredible variety within the autistic community.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of those famous examples, Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of Raymond Babbitt in Rain Man.
Yeah, Rain Man. The film definitely brought autism into the spotlight,
Yeah.
but it also reinforced this stereotype of autistic individuals as superhuman mathematicians.
Yeah, and that's where things get a little tricky. While some autistic traits viewed in isolation might seem advantageous in card games, it's important to remember that autism is a complex neurological condition that affects individuals in many different ways.
So let's break down these traits and see how they might play out at the card table. You mentioned that some autistic individuals have an incredible ability to focus, particularly on systems and patterns.
Absolutely. This laser-like focus can be a huge asset in card games, especially those that involve remembering sequences. Think about counting cards in Blackjack, for example, or keeping track of which cards have already been played in poker.
Yeah, it's like having a mental database,
Yeah.
constantly updating with every card revealed.
Exactly. Combine that with the superior pattern recognition skills that are often seen in individuals with autism, and you've got a recipe for spotting tells. Those subtle, often unconscious behaviors that can betray an opponent's hand.
Okay, hold on. I need a quick explanation here. What exactly are tells? I mean, this is gambling flow, so I know our listeners are familiar with the term,
Yeah.
but let's just break it down for anyone new to the game.
Sure. Imagine you're playing poker and your opponent has a really strong hand. They might unconsciously adjust their posture or touch their face, or even change their breathing pattern. These subtle cues or tells can be picked up by a keen observer, giving them an advantage.
So we've got intense focus and pattern recognition working together. What else is in this potential card shark starter pack?
Well, many individuals with autism find comfort in routines, both mentally and physically. And guess what? Card games are highly structured activities with clear rules and predictable sequences. The dealing, the betting rounds, the specific actions allowed, it's a system.
So for someone who thrives on routine and predictability, card games could feel like a natural fit. But I have a feeling you're about to throw a wrench in this theory, right?
Do you know me too well? Here's the catch. While some autistic traits might seem tailor-made for card playing, other aspects of autism can actually be disadvantages.
So it's not as simple as saying autism equals card shark.
Not at all. For many autistic individuals, social communication and interaction can be challenging. They might have difficulty interpreting facial expressions, understanding humor or sarcasm, or picking up on those subtle social cues that we call tells. And these are all critical skills in games like poker where reading your opponent is key.
That makes total sense.
Huh.
Imagine trying to bluff someone when you can't quite read their reaction.
Yeah.
Or if you misinterpret a playful joke as a serious threat.
Exactly. And let's not forget about impulsivity, which can also be a challenge for some individuals with autism. In a high-stakes card game where controlling your emotions and making calculated decisions is crucial, acting on impulse can be disastrous.
Okay, so we've got a mixed bag here. Some traits could be beneficial, others not so much. And of course, it varies from person to person.
Precisely. This brings us to another fascinating element. The concept of savants, individuals with extraordinary mental abilities in specific areas, often portrayed in movies and TV shows.
Like the Rain Man character who could instantly count toothpicks scattered on the floor and knew everyone's phone number by heart.
Right. But savant syndrome is extremely rare, even within the autistic population. It's not a defining characteristic of autism. And not all savants excel in areas that are related to card games. Take Daniel Tammet, for example.
Wait, I know that name. The memory whiz who recited pi to thousands of digits.
Mhm.
Didn't he even try his hand at blackjack for a documentary?
Yes, he did. And it turns out, even with his exceptional memory, he struggled with card counting. He found it frustrating and ultimately relied on his own intuition and system, which, interestingly enough, led to some wins.
That's fascinating. It really drives home the point that autism doesn't equal automatic card-playing genius. Even extraordinary mental abilities don't always translate directly to card-playing prowess.
Exactly. It highlights the fact that individuals with autism have talents and skills that are just as diverse as anyone else's.
Speaking of avoiding assumptions, we can't forget the case of professional poker player Daniel Cates,
Mm.
also known as Jungleman 12 online.
Yes, Jungleman 12. A fascinating case indeed.
There's been a lot of speculation about whether he's on the autism spectrum, fueled by some of his behavior at the poker table, throwing chips, outbursts at opponents, that sort of thing. Yeah. His somewhat distant communication style and accounts of a solitary childhood have added fuel to the fire.
And this is crucial speculation, is not diagnosis. We can't and shouldn't label someone based on observed behavior without their consent or a professional evaluation.
Absolutely. Even if someone IS diagnosed with autism, it doesn't define their entire identity or predict their abilities in any given area, like poker.
The takeaway here is that autism is not a monolithic entity. It's a spectrum of human experiences. And just like any other group, individuals with autism have diverse strengths and challenges. Some might excel at cards, some might not. And many might have passions and talents that have nothing to do with gambling whatsoever.
Right. It's about recognizing and celebrating each person's individuality rather than making sweeping generalizations based on a diagnosis, which, if you think about it, it's a pretty good rule of thumb for life in general.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've established that the link between autism and card-playing skills is far more nuanced than pop culture might lead us to believe. But we're just getting started, folks. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into this complex and intriguing topic.
Welcome back, everyone.
So we were talking about...
We've been talking about the connection between autism and card-playing skills. And as we've seen, it's a lot more complicated than it might seem at first glance.
Yeah, it's not just about saying, oh, hey, autistic folks are amazing at cards.
Right.
It's a gross oversimplification.
Yeah.
And frankly, a little insulting.
Exactly. And it's equally important to remember that while certain autistic traits might be seen as advantageous in some contexts, those same traits can often come with their own unique set of challenges.
Right. It's about understanding the whole picture,
Yeah.
the potential benefits and the potential drawbacks.
Exactly. Let's take the intense focus and pattern recognition we discussed earlier. While these can be incredibly helpful in card games, they can also contribute to sensory overload in some autistic individuals.
Now, that's an interesting angle. Imagine being hyper-aware of every detail, every sound, every movement around you,
Yeah.
especially in a bustling casino environment.
Exactly. It can be intensely overwhelming and distracting for some autistic individuals, making it difficult to concentrate on the game itself.
So what might be perceived as a gift in one context could actually be a source of stress and anxiety in another. It really flips the script on how we think about these things.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to approach discussions about autism with sensitivity and a genuine understanding of the individual experience.
We need to ditch those simplistic narratives that portray autism as either a superpower or a tragedy. It's neither.
Yeah.
It's just part of the amazing tapestry of human neurodiversity.
Precisely. Autism is a complex neurological difference that shapes how individuals perceive and interact with the world. And just like any other aspect of human diversity, it comes with its own unique strengths, challenges, and perspectives.
We need to shift the focus from what's wrong with this person to what's different about this person, and how can we understand and value that difference.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about creating a society that values and supports neurodiversity, providing opportunities for everyone to thrive, regardless of their neurological wiring.
That's the dream, isn't it? A world where everyone can play their best hand, so to speak.
Yeah.
And speaking of playing hands, I think this whole conversation highlights the importance of challenging stereotypes and embracing a more nuanced understanding of autism, especially in a field like gambling.
Absolutely. We need to move beyond those limiting reductionist narratives and recognize the incredible richness and complexity of human experience.
And I think the world of card games, with its blend of strategy, skill, and social interaction, provides a fantastic lens through which to explore these themes. Because even in a seemingly structured, rule-based environment like a poker game, human behavior can be multifaceted and unpredictable.
Yeah, it's a constant reminder that embracing diversity in all its forms can lead to a richer and more fulfilling experience for everyone involved.
Beautifully put. Well, folks, I think we've dealt you a pretty good hand of insights today. We've unpacked the intriguing and often misrepresented connection between autism and card playing, debunked some myths, and hopefully broadened your understanding of this complex and fascinating topic. But we're not done yet. Stay tuned for the final round where we'll leave you with some food for thought and encourage you to keep those cards turning. Welcome back to the final round of our deep dive into the world of autism and card playing. We've covered a lot of ground, but like any good card game, there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. And the biggest takeaway, I think, from this whole conversation is the importance of continuous learning, especially when it comes to understanding human diversity.
I couldn't agree more. So before we cash in our chips for the day, let's leave our listeners with a little something to ponder. We've explored how certain autistic traits might play out at the card table. But what about the bigger picture?
That's a great question. What other skills or talents might be more or less common amongst people with autism? And how can we as a society create environments that really allow those talents to flourish?
Now, those are some questions worth betting on. Remember, the world of neurodiversity is full of surprises. So it's up to all of us to stay curious, keep exploring, and challenge our assumptions about what people can and cannot do.
I love that. And on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of autism and card playing.
The pleasure was all ours. And I'm Russell Kane.
And I'm Fiona Blake.
And you've been listening to Gambling Flow.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with anyone who might be interested. And remember, the best hand you can play in life is the one that embraces diversity and celebrates the unique strengths of every individual.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those cards turning.